Greetings. One of the most foundational concepts in personal finance is the concept of 72. And this is so central to any possible pathway towards building wealth or making a lot of money that it has to be the first topic covered in any truly quantitative and results-oriented strategy towards building of wealth. Now, as we all know, personal finance is not taught in schools in the United States. Some say that that is deliberate in order to keep the masses poor and uninformed. But whether that's true or not, I'm going to make a video about this because this is a topic that can be introduced even to children as young as 8 years old. The concept of 72. And it's really quite simple. It's just that 72 divided by your annual rate of return equals the number of years to double your money, not taking into account taxes or things like that. So what does this mean in terms of the variables that you can choose? This is clearly a two-variable equation. X could be the annual rate of return and Y is the number of years, so X times Y is 72. Now, being a two-variable quadratic equation, it is technically not a straight line, but it is a curve. And so we go to this next slide. The rule of 72 as an equation, x times y equals to 72, is manifested like so, and the likely rates of return you can achieve, 8% a year equals 9 years to double, 10% a year is about 7.2 years to double, 12% a year is 6 years to double, and so forth. The middle parts of this graph are where the real world returns exist. This being a two-variable curve, the extremities never hit the axes. So this line will never hit this vertical axis, and this line will never hit this horizontal axis. And whenever I make a video like this, there's always someone who fails the Confucius test and says that, well, 72 times 1 is not 100, therefore this whole concept has to be thrown out the window. For one thing, you're not making 72% returns a year on a consistent basis. I'm actually someone who did make 70% returns a year for 4 years straight, but then that no longer became possible. That was only possible for 4 years, which is an unusually long time. Most people cannot do that for a single year, but I recognize that that was not possible for a very long time. And the reason that is called the Confucius test is that you can see from this screen up here, Confucius pointed out that when a wise man points to the stars, there's always an imbecile there to criticize the finger. So no, 72 times 1 is not 100, but those are the extremities of this curve. We are taking the middle parts of this curve. 1% a year also takes slightly less than 72 years to double. So if you're a gold or silver investor and you expect 1% a year long-term returns, then the good news is it will double in slightly less than 72 years. Slightly less, not much less. But the middle parameters are always going to be somewhere between 4 and 12 in terms of both the percentage annual rate of return and the number of years that it takes to double. And remember, under the accelerating rate of economic growth, long-term returns of the equity index continue to rise. So instead of the stock market being a 10% a year return prospect, going forward, there might be 12% a year as the baseline cruising speed, maybe even 14% a year as we get into the 2030s. That could happen under the accelerating rate of change, especially for technology-oriented equity indices like the NASDAQ 100. And once you determine the number of years it will take to double, this takes us to the concept of what it means for your long-term lifetime investment horizon. If one doubling means 2x your money, two doublings means 4x your money, 3 doublings means 8x your money. 4 doublings means 16 times your money. Now, you can only have more than 4 doublings if you start very young and have a high rate of return and you're early in this accelerating rate of change gradient, but relatively few people are going to achieve more than 4 doublings, at least from the stage of the accelerating rate of change that we are in right now. But still, this means that starting early leads to a massive compounding effect in your favor, to the extent that when you're old, you don't have to worry about retirement anymore, simply because you made the right choices in terms of investment and starting early. And this is a concept that should be instilled into everyone, particularly children, because it is the single most important governing factor in any aspect of personal finance, and particularly when returns on equity-oriented investment strategies is rising somewhat, and maybe technology stock indices are going to be at 12% a year relative to a baseline trend line entry point in 2023. If we believe in the technological singularity, that is in fact very much a possibility. So this is the single biggest concept in personal finance and step one in any path towards building wealth. Whether you're a technology entrepreneur, whether you want to work in finance, whether you want to just start your personal compounding effect at an early age, this is the very first thing to think about. That number, 72. Now, if you like this type of content, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel, and thank you very much for watching.